Hello all, welcome back to Learning Partner. If you are new, please do subscribe. This is another channel where you can directly connect with me. We have around 1000 plus members already who are working. We take live coding sessions and everything. To just get notified about those sessions, please do join this group. From a function which is returning like this, very basic I have taken. Okay. So in last session, we have done till this means getting the, what do we say? We just addition only, but the add function is in our service, and we have done the integration of service to get the sum of the two number. So this we have covered like this. Okay. Now, if and else condition, how do we write the if and else condition, or how do we cover the test cases for if and else condition? Okay. So here I have a simple function which is get even odd. So first, like I said, whenever we are writing test case, it's not like a function which are you are actually calling from your HTML. We have to cover every function, whatever the function you are writing in your .ts, every function you need to write the test case. Okay. So this is the first function which is responsible to check if a number is even or odd. So we need to write test case for this. Okay. Let's start writing. Again, like to write the test case, all the test case we normally write in the describe block, right? In the describe block, we have before each. So this particular block gets executed before each test case getting executed. Means this block will get executed multiple time. Means how many test cases you have, that much time this block is going to execute. Okay. After that, we can write multiple test cases like this. Okay. Let's write the test case now for this get even odd function. So we will call it as it, then our test case name. Now our test case is we are going to write for this function. This function is responsible to check like if this num1 is even or odd, and that value, whatever the value we get, that we are going to store into this variable. Fine. So check even or odd. Okay. And our function name, we can put it over here so that, wait, I'm audible properly, correct? Yeah. Okay. So comma, round bracket, curly bracket, enter. So this is our test case name. After that, we just need to provide our function name so that we can identify like for this function, this is our test case. Now, if you see this function, what are the possible outcome we can have from this function? So what we are doing, we are calling another function, and this function has a parameter. So what I can do, I will pass, let's say in num1 variable, I have passed 2. So in is even, I will get true, because from this function, if the number is even, I'm returning true. And if the number is 3, I'm returning false. So in this function, we have two outcome. Either in this variable, we can get even true, or we can get it false also. So there are two test cases or two approaches we have it over here. So we need to cover both of the scenarios. Okay. Now let me start. So as you can see in this function, we are going to use this variable num1. So what we can do, we can just initialize a variable component. Guys, let me just complete first. Then we can go for the question because it will be very difficult. Other might also get confused. Okay. Let me just complete what I want to deliver. Then we can again go for the all the test cases what I have written now. So hold your questions for now. So in this variable, we are using this variable num1. So let's initialize that. So num1 is equal to, let's say we are going for the odd one. So we have initialized this value as 3. Then from this function, we are calling another function that is check even or odd. So what we can do, component, or before that, now let's call this function first. So component dot, this function we need to execute like this over here. After that, we will create a local variable, or we don't need local variable also. So component dot, what we need to do is first we can check like if this variable, let's say this function we are calling. So let's call this function. And for this function, we will pass this as a parameter. Same thing, whatever we have written it over here, same thing we are writing. And the output of this, whatever the output we get from this function, we have to store it into this variable, right? So like this component dot, our variable name is easy1. equal to, because this function is going to return some value. That value we are going to store it over here. Same code. Whatever the lines of code you have written it over here, same we have to write, but just in a test case format. Okay. Now our expect statement. So expect this variable. Now we are passing 3. So this should be false, to be false value, because this is a even odd number. So from this function we will get false over here. So that only we need to check. So this is for odd only. Let's remove this even. Now same like that, as I said, the outcome of this function will be either we will get true or false in this variable. So we need to cover both of the scenarios. So in this function we have checked, like if I pass the number which is even, I should get even. Okay. Now same thing we have to write it for the other way also, where we will get it as a false. Okay. So again our test case name same, just instead of or we will go with even. Okay, comma, round bracket, arrow function, right? Now same thing, component and everything will be same. These two lines will be same. Again, this two also will be same. Just difference will be, if I pass 2 over here, so the output from this function I should be getting true. So that only we need to cover. So at the last we will write expect round bracket. What we need to check, in this variable I should get true now. So this to be true. In this variable I should get true value. That's only we have to write, right? So see, it was a one line code, but for that we have to create two test cases, and so much of logic we have to write in the test case. So whatever the logic we had it over here, we have to check the what value this variable is going to have. We are going to have either true or false. So that's why we have to write two test cases, one for checking the even and one for checking the odd, right? So this is how we write the test case for simple even odd function. If you are, if inside any function you are calling another function and you are getting some value, if it is vice versa, like true or false, or empty or no, not empty, like that. So you just have to write two if statement like that. But let's say is if this function is if this function was going to return so many different values based on the input it provide, we have to cover all those different expectation whatever that function was going to return. But in this case it's just true and false, so we have just covered it with the two test cases, one for the even, sorry, odd, and this is for the even. Let's save it and let's run our test case again. So ng test. Now in the describe function I have added f, so only this component will be tested first, then the remaining component. Let me just close this. Let it run. Okay. So by default, our browser will open and along with the report of the all test cases. So see, these two functions, these are success. Now, this looks very simple, like we have written the test case and it success also. Now the first part, like why do we write the test case? Right? Ultimately, what is the purpose of writing test cases? Let's say you are the main developer, you have created some functionality and you have written the test case also because you created that functionality. So you know the various outcome or the various scenario. So like that, you have written the test cases. Let's say new developer came and over here, what he done, let's say he changed the logic. Instead of return true, he is returning string value as yes, or let's say even or odd. Fine. And let's change this variable to string instead of boolean. So now this function is going to work the same, but instead of true and false value, he has changed the return type, even and odd means string value. Okay. But now we know, like we have created this function which should return a true value, but some developer change it. Now our test case will break. So let's see. So now our both of the test case should break. Now see, this also got failed and this also got failed.
saying expected was false, but we got odd. Here expected was true, but here we got even. So no one, then the new developer will get to know like test case are written like this. So maybe this function should be returning true or false only, right? So that's why we cover every function with the test cases. So no one should change that function logic because it is meant to be like that. So we have written the test cases like that. So if no one can come and directly change the test case, because this test case, whenever we deploy the build in Jenkins or something, first our test case will generate. If all the test cases are working fine, then only our build get deployed, right? So I don't know, like if you are on that level, then only you will get this whole scenario. But test cases are written just to secure our whatever the logic we have written, so that no one can come and directly change it, because our test case will fail then in that case. Okay, fine. So for this function we have written again just a scenario like, so in this function we are using this variable, and this variable we are passing it over, but it's not mandatory that you should be using this variable over here. What you can do, you can just create a local variable also, num is equal to, let's say, 3, and this variable you can pass as a parameter over here. It will also work. It's not like here we have using this variable, so in test case also we just need to provide that variable. No, what we need to pass over here, number. So that number either come from a variable or a your local variable also you can create, still it will pass. Okay, we need to change this also. Let me undo the code. Okay, let's say, still it will success. Okay, where it is, E1 or this one and this one. Okay, so it's not mandatory that every time we have to, if we are using some variable, we have to use that only. But in some cases, if we have a logic between these two variable, right, so then we have to initialize those variable and we will write the logic like that. But it just, whatever the value we have in this variable, we are passing to the another function. So either you can pass the component variable like this, or you can create a variable and that you can pass, or you can directly pass over here also. You don't need to create variable also. This is also fine. We just need to pass some value to this, because this function needs a parameter. Got it? Fine. Now, now we have this function where we have if and else block. Okay. So whenever we have some function, and in that function we have if and else block, so we have to write two test cases, one for the if and one for the else. Okay. Let's write it now. So this function is having one parameter. Okay. So what we need to do, we have to create first test case. It, let's say test name will be should get even number, and our function name we can put it over there, comma arrow function. Okay, now see, this function has a parameter. So what we can do, let's create a constant variable, num is equal to, let's say, 3. Now we need to call this function, and whatever the out, this function is going to return some data. So we just need to verify that, right? So again, we will store it into a variable const result is equal to component dot this function only we need to call, and we have to pass the variable parameter. So num. Now we need to write the expect statement for this result expect. If for this function, if we pass 3, we should get true over here in the result. So result to be true like this. So see, whatever the we have covered our if block. So if your project has Sonar implemented now, so in Sonar report, you will get like these lines are covered because of this test case, but these lines won't be covered. Again, you need to write it. This will come in the green section and this will come in the red section, saying like these lines are not covered. So again, that's what I said. Whatever the lines of code you write, everything you need to cover. Okay, all the lines you need to cover, then only your Sonar coverage will come proper above 80%. Normally when we work, client will have an agreement with us that Sonar coverage should be at least minimum 80%. No one will accept 100%, but at least 80%. No code smell, nothing should be there. Security hotspot should not be there. Everything, test case, coverage, code smell, duplicate line of code, and our security hotspot. All these should be 80%. Average of everything, all these parameters should be 80% minimum. And in some project, they will add a validation also. If 80% of 80% sonar coverage is not there, na, your build will won't trigger. Getting it? So you cannot deploy your project. Then you need to take the approval. Then DevOps team will disable that validation. So anyhow, we have to write it. If you are working in a very small company, currently you are not writing test case, but believe me, whenever you go to a mid scale or a proper MNC now, you have to write the test case. There is no way around it. You have to write it. So that's why having the basic knowledge of test cases is also, because with using ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot, you can then write the whole thing. But at least basic, like what is test case and how do we cover the lines, that you should understand. Okay. Now, so we have covered our if statement. Just like that, another else statement will be there. It. Now for the, we have written the test case for even. Now we just have to write for the odd. Let me just copy paste. This will be for odd. Copy, round bracket. Okay. Now let's, instead of letting this work properly, we will make it wrong. Okay. Now this same thing I will copy paste. Sorry. Why it is saying error? Because single quote. Oh, sorry. I have written ifs. It. Okay. Now here I'm passing 3. Okay. We are checking for the odd. And if I'm passing 3, result will be by default false. Na? But here I have written true. Wait. Here also we did wrong. See, if I'm passing 3 to this function, what I'm going to get? False, na? So here it should be to be false. Okay. If I'm passing 2 over here as a parameter, so I will be getting true. But here I'm passing to be false. So I'm whatever the logic I have in my function, but I'm writing the vice versa test case. So this test case should get failed, because if I pass to this function, if I pass 2 to this function, I will get true. But here what I'm expecting false. So my test case should fail. Let's see. See, odd number. This test case got failed because expected was true, but what we compared with false. Okay. So this should be to be true. Now my whole test cases will get success. So like this, if all your test cases are successful, then only you will have the coverage, then only your build will automatically get triggered. Okay, fine. So we have covered this function and this function. In this function, this is the new thing like if and else. Okay. Now, one more scenario is there. So just see this function. So what this function is doing, I have an array roll number list. So when we normally work in any project, we get so many scenarios where we have an array and we find something or filter something and we write something with that, right? So something like this you might have written hundred of times. So we need to cover this also. Now, what is the scenario? So I have an array. In that array, I'm checking like whatever the number, whatever the parameter I get, that is present over here or not. If it is present, I'm returning true. Otherwise, wait. Yeah, if whatever the number parameter I get, if that parameter is present in my array, I'm returning true. Otherwise, false. So this function I need to cover. Again, we have if and else, so we will need 2 test cases. Okay. So let's write the first one. So it should check if number present, first test case, and our function name is this. Then comma, round bracket, arrow function. Fine. So now here we need to cover this function. If block we will first cover. So if you see this roll number I have created over here at the top. Okay. So now here I need to create I again need to, because in this function I'm using this variable and in this variable I should have an array. So same thing, whatever the code I have written it over, I need to write the same test cases of this. Okay. So I will again reinitialize this variable component dot roll number list is equal to, let's say 1, 2, 4. I have created an array. Now what I need to do, this function I will call, let's write it const is true, or let's say is exist. equal to. So what I will do, I need to execute my function. So component dot check if in number exists. And what I will do, I can pass some value. Let's say I'm passing 2. Okay. Now my expect statement. Expect what I should expect in this variable. To this function I'm passing 2. 2 is present over here. So I should get to be true. Okay. This is the test case for covering the first condition, if condition. Okay, sorry, else condition. Then we have to cover the if condition also. If whatever the number I have passed is not in my array, right? So same thing I will copy paste now. And here I will pass 3. And here, like in this, if I pass 3 to this function, okay, I don't have 3 over here right now. So I should get false now. So here I need to write to be false. So see, somewhat it is like same thing we are doing it again and again. But it's just like in every, like this is very basic we are covering. When it comes to API call, reactive form is the painful one because we will in next session either we will try for the API call test cases like how do we subscribe and everything using spy, or we will go with reactive. But trust me, like whatever the test cases I have worked, I have also not worked that much, but whatever I have worked, like reactive forms are the very tricky one. Okay, fine. So we have covered till this, these three functions we have covered. Okay, let's go with question if anyone has any question. Let me just pause the recording. So this function is accepting an array. Okay, and whatever the array I get, I'm using for loop, and whatever the elements I have in that array, I'm just making the addition of it and I'm returning the result. Okay, it's a simple function, just like the above, just the logic is something different. Okay, so let's write a test case for this. Again, as I said, like the above logic, whatever the logic we have, what we need to do, we just need to check the outcome, what outcome I should get from this function, whatever the logic I have written. If I pass something value, what outcome I should get, that only we need to cover. Okay, so this function we can pass array of integer, what, let's say 1 2 3, so output I should get is 6, right? So let's write test case for this. So 8 wire it. Wait, please be mute. Okay, so should get sum of array. Okay, now we here in this function we just have a one output. Either we pass empty array or number of elements, we are going to just get the result, something number integer we are going to get. So we just need one test case for this. Again, by now if you have just watched my previous episode, previous session and this session, by now you will get it, like everything is same, nothing is going to change. So what we need to do, we can create an array because this function needs an array. So let's say arr is equal to 1 comma 2 comma 3. Okay, and then we can create a constant result is equal to component dot our function that is get sum of number, and we have to pass array, this array which we have created, and then expect statement. So expect what we need to expect, the result, whatever the outcome of this function to be, it should be. So dot to be 6. Okay, just like that we can create one more test case also with different integers like that, 5 or something. Okay, now here what should be the output, 6 plus 5 11. Okay, here we can say of 1 comma 2 comma 3 we should get success, and for 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 5 we should get 11. Let's save and check. Where it is, not compiled or what? It's still compiling. 14th are success. So see, this is also success and this is also success. If I change my function logic, Instead of this variable I have initialized with 0, instead of it, let's say I initialize with 1. Now my function has some another logic and my test cases are something else. So now our test case will get broke. See, expected 7, but we said 6. Expected 12, but we said 11. So if your function business logic got changed, so then your test case will get failed. Okay, got it? Fine. So this was the last thing. In next session, we will start with the API integration first. We will complete our API integration, then we will go for the reactive. Or again, you can also come up with the topics like whatever I can think of that I have taken. Okay, if you have some proper scenarios, again we can take up that also. Let me just pause the recording, or let's stop it.